This week on HomeKit News, the Zemismart Roller Shade motor with Matter and thread. Welcome back everybody. Around a year ago I reviewed Zemismart's Matter Roller Shade motor as seen here. Now it was Matter over Wi-Fi, which I feel isn't going to be as popular as thread, plus it uses mains power which isn't of use to some. Just recently the company released a new model that uses Matter over thread, which is a big plus in my book. However, this model still uses mains power. In terms of power, it's a step up from the Wi-Fi model, however. The good news is that alongside this model, the company also released a Matter over thread model that uses a rechargeable battery, so no cables. It's understandably not quite as powerful as the wired model, but hey, what do you expect? Both of these Matter over thread models have also done away with the unsightly box that hung outside the motor, so that's another plus. For the majority of this video today, we're going to be looking at the battery operated Matter over thread model. So what's in the box? Pretty much everything. You get the roller shade motor, of course, along with a 2 meter long USB-A to USB-C charging cable. There's an end cap for one end of the roller tube, a pair of mounting brackets and 4 pieces relating to the included RF remote. Here's the wired model, which as you can see looks identical apart from the wire, of course. Due to this, the wired model doesn't come with a USB-C cable. Here's a closer look at the RF remote, which comes with a pair of adhesive patches along with a frame for the buttons, I assume to protect them from inadvertent presses. It also comes with a magnetic mount, which is what the adhesive patches are basically for. As already mentioned, the USB cable offers USB-C at one end for recharging the motor's internal battery. One end of the motor has all the parts you need to know about, which includes the USB-C port, a pairing button, an LED indicator, and a pair of wires that relate to the thread and RF radios inside. This end also features a toggle button to turn the motor fully off if required. So how do these motors actually work? Well, if you don't know already, it's actually quite simple. Here's a roller tube, and as you can see, the profile is round with a small cutout section. This corresponds with a wheel on one end of the motor, which helps the two lock into place. The other end of the motor also has a similar plastic cog that fits to the motor end, with one end also featuring the same cutout profile. You then just insert the motor into the tube, which can be longer than the motor, with the motor end slotting into place like so. The other end of the roller tube is where you fit the end cap, although I already have one fitted to this particular roller tube. Finally, after fitting the brackets to a wall or ceiling, they simply click into place, with one of the brackets having a lockable section to help you fix the roller tube after the brackets have been fitted. The instructions that come with these blinds are pretty good, although there's a section that could confuse you, so I'm going to explain how it's done here. The important thing to note is that you do have to set the upper and lower limits with the provided remote before you add the blinds to your smart home. I repeat, before you add them to your smart home. So on the assumption you've paired the remote to the blinds, you now have to first set the limits. So press the down button to set the lower limit and press the middle button to stop it at the appropriate position. Then press and hold the up and down buttons together for a long time and the motor will jog twice. After that, press the middle button 5 times within 5 seconds and finally press the down button. The closed position or down position has now been set. Next, press the up button to set the upper limit using the middle button to stop the blinds at the appropriate position. Press and hold the up and down buttons together like before and the motor will then jog again. Press the middle button 5 times again within 5 seconds and then finally press the up button. The open position has now been set. With that done, you can now add it to any Matter compatible smart home as long as you have a Threadboarder router and a Matter controller. I'm going to be setting this up in Apple Home to begin with, and when it comes to installation, it's essentially the same as adding any other HomeKit compatible product, so there's nothing different in this regard. Once installed, I'll just place it in a room, and as you can see, it now has its own tile. All the same settings are also available. Now the good news is I was able to easily add it to Google Home and Samsung SmartThings, with the bonus that the motor was immediately discovered upon opening the respective apps. One thing to note is the pause button in the SmartThings app doesn't seem to work. Whilst I have no permanent place to use this at present, I have been able to test it out over a couple of weeks. In the home app, for example, I can simply press the tile to operate it, and whilst there's a slight delay at first, subsequent reaction times are pretty good. There haven't been any issues with it forgetting its position so far, but then that hasn't happened with any of my smart blinds to date. It has also stayed connected at all times in the test period, which is one of the most important things aside from reaction times. I also decided to test it with a smart button, and in this case I'm using the Onvis 5-button switch that uses HomeKit over Thread, not Matter over Thread. Once again, initially there's a slight delay, which in this case I suspect was due to not giving the automation enough time to propagate within the system, but it works fast enough most of the time, as you can see here. I think unlike motion sensors, reaction times aren't as critical or crucial for something like a smart blind. The version I tested is the rechargeable model, but if you don't fancy charging the battery at all, you can purchase the optional solar panel. This particular one is possibly the most well-made one I've seen to date, in fact. It's quite big, at a bit over 13 inches wide and 3 inches tall, and at 0.63 inches it's still slim but feels hefty. The back section has a track that houses 2 clips that come with holes so you can fit them to something with screws, and as they can slide around in the track, you don't have to be terribly accurate. The cable is of a decent length too, that's what she said, and you also get stickers if you want to affix it directly to your window, so this is quite a decent add-on. Briefly looking back at the wired model, this comes with a longer cable than in previous iterations and only requires a live and neutral connection. The bonus of having the wired model is that it can act as a thread router or repeater, which the battery model can't. On to the pros and cons now, and we're already off to a good start as this is thread enabled to take some strain away from your Wi-Fi router. As this is a retrofit option, you get to keep your original blinds, which not only saves buying new ones, but also the hassle of having to measure everything up again. The budget theme continues as this is less than half the price of the equivalent version by Eve motion blinds, although to be fair, the Eve model can accommodate more roller tube sizes. With the 3 options for power, battery, wired or solar power, this does give you as much choice as you'd need, so there's something for everybody. Because it's Matter compatible, the device stays local, so no cloud requirements, and you don't even need a third-party app, although you can add this to the Toya Smart ecosystem if you also have ZemiSmart's own Thread and Matter gateway, which I reviewed not so long ago. As already stated, this can only fit one size of roller tube, but you can always get a new roller tube if you want and still save a bit of money, so it's only a minor negative. So that's our take on yet another Matter and Thread device. Is this something you'd consider buying, and if so, is it simply down to price, or is Matter and Thread the big selling point for you? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below and I'll do my best to reply. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll leave you with today's quote from the legendary Oscar Wilde, who once said, "The man who says his wife can't take a joke forgets that she took him."